السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى أما بعد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل وألهمنا رشدنا يا رب العالمين. قال الله تعالى: والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected Muslims, before we begin to discuss our guest of honor of tonight, I want to begin by mentioning to you an incident, a story that one of our teachers mentioned to us. So one of our teachers mentioned that there was a group of South African brothers who went from South Africa to, presumably it was Gambia, in da'wah, for da'wah purposes. And as they came to this beautiful country of Gambia, predominantly Muslim, most of the population follows the deen of Allah, and on a daily basis they would go out and invite people towards the house of Allah and invite them towards the deen of Allah. And they went to visit a certain brother, and the person that they went to visit got frustrated. You know, like sometimes the famous story people say that some brothers in Da'wah and Tabligh, they went and knocked on a door. So they heard the father telling the son that go open the door and tell them Baba's not home. They overheard the father telling the son that go tell them Baba's not home. So these brothers went and they spoke to someone and he got frustrated. Why are you coming to me? Why are you reminding me? Why are you speaking to me about Allah when I already come to the masjid? Go to someone, and why don't you bother go to Big Papa? Big Papa, that was what he said. So immediately that got the person thinking and questioning, who is Big Papa? Who is this big boss? Who is this person? So then they went back to the masjid and then they gathered and they said that we went to visit someone, and they told us after being frustrated that, why are you coming to me? Why don't you go to Big Papa? So they started asking the community around them, who can take us to quote-unquote Big Papa? Who is he? Who is this person? And they say whenever we mention this name in front of any of the locals, peoples, the color on their face changed. He says that we went on the road and we would stop a taxi and ask the taxi, can you take us to Big Papa? And the first thing the taxi would do is just drive away. Everyone was scared of this man, whoever he was. And then he says that finally they paid someone a hefty amount of money and they told him, take us. And he agreed, I won't take you to his residence, but I'll take you to the end of the street and the road, and then you can see what happens. It's up to you. So he took them and they stopped at the end of the road. The driver sped off and then they started walking towards the residence of this person in this area by the name of Big Papa. And as they came, they were immediately received by security. What are you doing and what do you want? Who do you wish to visit and who do you wish to speak to and converse with? And they said, look, we're here from South Africa, we're here for a da'wah mission, and we want to speak to someone who a lot of people have taken his name by the name of Big Papa. And the security started to laugh. And the security started to question their intentions. That, are you sure you know what you're doing? Are you sure you know who you're asking for? And they said, we're certain, we want to speak to him. And at that moment, as the secretary of this man was driving in, the gates opened and the secretary asked, who do you want? They said, we want to speak to the owner of this house. So finally, after a lengthy process, they're taken in. They're taken to a room and there's security inside the entire room and they don't know who they're about to see. And then they say, finally a man enters that room, and it's a man of a gigantic stature, a giant in the true sense of the word, Big Papa for real. He enters the room and he's got all these chains and he's got bracelets and he's got armor and he's armed to the teeth, he's got guns with him, and he sits down. And then he says to them, what do you want? So then in Da'wah and Tabligh, there's a mutakallim, a speaker, a da'i, someone who will speak about Allah. So then one person from the group of these South Africans who traveled to Gambia, he says, I started to talk. I was so afraid being in the situation that I was in, that Allah knows what I said. I don't even remember or recall what I said. But he said, I started to speak, I spoke. And as I concluded my words, again Big Papa asked, what do you want? So he said, I just gave an entire lecture. Like imagine sometimes, one of our sheikhs used to tell us, he said, one day I went to a masjid and I gave a 45-minute lecture. And as I was exiting from the masjid, one of the musallis grabbed me and he said, Sheikh, kuch nasihat de dijiye. He said, Bhaiya, maine 45-minute ka bayan diya aur abhi nasihat ki puch. He says that I gave an entire bayan and then Big Papa's asking me, what do you want? So he says, I never knew what to say, and I said to him, we want you to come back to the masjid with us. So he says, Big Papa paused for a moment. And after some thoughts, after introspecting and after thinking for a moment, pondering over what was said, he says this giant of a man stood up and he said, let's go to the masjid. He said they came to the masjid, so Dhuhr was already done. And as they walked in with this giant of a man and they met the other brothers from that delegation and from that jama'ah, they took him to the Amir and the leader and they said, this is Big Papa of the area, speak to him. The Amir says, I spoke to him until Asr Salah. And after Asr Salah, the adhan was about to be given. Again, Big Papa only has one question. What do you want? So the Amir said that we want you to pray Salatul Asr with us. So he says that the moment the Salatul Asr was concluded, we carried on speaking and then Maghrib came. Again, only one question. What do you want? We want you to pray Maghrib with us. They say when the adhan of Maghrib was given, they started seeing something within this man that was different. As he prepared for the prayer, he took his gun, he put it on the floor, he took off his chains and he took off all the jewelry that he had, and he went to make wudu, and he knew how to make wudu. He was a Muslim. He was someone who was born into the deen of Allah. But the reality was he was a drug dealer. And he was the biggest drug dealer in that city and in that area. Everyone feared him. He was notorious in his field that he was in. And then he says, after Salatul Maghrib, for a fourth time, he asks us, what do you want? And we said to him, we want you to spend the night with us in the masjid. He says the security were outraged that Big Papa doesn't sleep in a masjid. He doesn't sleep on the floor. It's above his pay grade. But finally, after some deliberation, he says, I will spend the night with you in the masjid. And the jama'ah, they say that everyone went to sleep after Isha. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the crying of a person, the weeping of an individual, the sobbing of a person is what woke up the entire jama'ah. At 3 in the morning, the jama'ah wakes up and they see that this very same man is crying and weeping and sobbing in front of Allah. He's crying. And he says to them that my Allah will never forgive me. You don't know me. You've come from a foreign land. You're not from our area. You're not from our city. You don't know the crimes that I've committed. And I am telling you, my Allah won't forgive me. Then after deliberation and speaking to him and encouraging him, he decided to go out in the path of Allah for 3 days. The reason why I'm mentioning this incident to you is because our guest of honor of tonight is a companion whose heart changed when he came to the masjid. He says that they went in Jama'ah and Tabligh for 3 days. That 3 days became 40 days, and that 40 days became 4 months. And he had his entourage of his security with him. The South African brothers say that when he left, we weren't even allowed to go with them because of the sheer number of people. But after 40 days, when we, the South African brothers, were about to leave and go back to our country, we went to them and we spoke to him. And Big Papa said one thing powerful. He said, you know what, my heart has changed, but I want you to come with me to visit my father. So then the Amir said, no problem, let's go visit your father, let's go speak to him. And as they went to the father, the Amir says that I was informed and I met the man. His father was a great scholar of the deen of Islam. He was a great alim of the country of Gambia. The father was a person who had dedicated his life to the tradition, but the son became addicted to drugs. Just today we were having a conversation with a brother. The amount of youth that are in this problem or in this addiction of drugs, good families. The father is in the first saf of the masjid, and in his home there's a drug problem. In this home there's an addiction. In this home there's people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol and whatever it may be. So he says we went to the father, and the father was a scholar of deen. And the father started to cry. And the father says to them that I thought my son was gone. I thought that it's impossible for my son to change. I thought that there's no light at the end of the tunnel for my son who was in drugs. But then he says that your one knock on that door changed the trajectory of the future of my son. Big Papa tells the Amir Sahib, let me tell you something. When I was young, I had memorized 20 juz of the book of Allah. I had memorized 20 ajza from the Quran committed to memory. But then drugs ruined me. I forgot the entirety of whatever I had memorized. But because of your one knock, because of your call that you gave, because of your fikr and your worry and your concern that my iman needs to be protected, and you had the courage and the bravery to come and speak to me, I have made an azam with my Allah that in the next few months, whilst I am in the path of Allah, I will relearn whatever I had memorized, and then I will also learn another 10 juz and commit the entire Quran to memory. The Amir says, we went back to South Africa, and he wrote a letter to us. And in that letter, he informed us that he had committed the entirety of the Book of Allah to memory. What a change in his life. Today, unfortunately, the reality is many of the young ummatis of the Rasul are on drugs, male and female. Many a time when we speak of drugs and alcohol, we think it's something limited to the young boys of the ummah, the youth who are men and the shabab of the ummah. But it's a problem, it's a difficulty, it's an addiction that even the young girls of the ummah are grappling with. We have to work towards creating spaces for them to help them and treat them and get them the professional help that they require. Big Papa's entire life changed. How did he die? They say that we were informed by the people of his city, it's the day of Salatul Jumu'ah. It's the time between Asr and Maghrib. It's a time of ijabah and acceptance. And we were informed that that was the moments, that were the last moments in the life of this individual. Our guest of honor of tonight is a person, in the 6th year after the hijrah of the Rasul ﷺ, Rasulullah ﷺ started to write letters to is known as Amul Wafd. The Rasul started to send out delegations and write letters to the leaders of the time. So when, for example, the Persians and the Romans, they received the letter of Rasulullah ﷺ, one of them immediately tore the entire letter of the Rasul. And then the Rasul ﷺ, when he was later informed that we delivered the letter that you had written, and the king, he teared your letter, Rasulullah ﷺ says, Mazzaq Allahu mulka, Allah will tear his entire kingdom apart. And that was the fate of that individual. There was another companion of the Rasul, he says that I was tasked with taking the letter to the Roman Empire. And this was a very difficult journey. If anyone took the letter of the Rasul to the Romans, it was understood that he's not coming home. He says, we went to the Roman Empire and we were received, and as I gave my letter, what did this Roman emperor do? He started, they took us captive. And as they took us captive, they called some people. And then he says that people in front of me were hung. And under them is a utensil with boiling water, fire, oil, whatever it was. And he says that he takes the life of one man and he allows the other man to live. And then he asked this companion of the Rasul ﷺ, are you willing to forsake the deen of Muhammad? And this companion says, I witnessed someone die in front of me. I witnessed someone lose their life in front of me. And I was asked the question, do you want the same fate, or are you going to leave the deen of Muhammad? And the companion of the Rasul says that I came to deliver a message. I never came to leave and divorce and abandon my religion and my tradition. And then as a consequence, when this king sees that the Sahaba of the Rasul's iman was so strong, it couldn't be shaken. Then he says to him, you know what, I'll spare you your life. You don't need to leave the religion of Muhammad, but you must kiss my forehead. The Sahabi says that I kissed his forehead because in exchange, he promised me he would let the entirety of our group go free. I kissed the forehead. We came back to Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. And Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu stood up and he kissed my forehead. And he said, Haqqun ala kulli Muslim. Every Muslim must kiss the forehead of this companion because of the steadfastness that he showed. Our guest of tonight was a person, the Rasul ﷺ sends a delegation with a letter to him. And when he receives the letter, one is to tear the letter. One is to instill fear into the heart of the person who delivered the letter. One is to take the life of the ambassador of the delegation and take the life of those who were around him. Thumama bin Uthal radiallahu ta'ala an is our guest of honor of tonight. And Thumama bin Uthal radiallahu an's story is a very unique story. He was the king of Yamama. He had an entire region that he was in control of. And all of the business routes, the routes for business and trade had to go through his areas. He had access to the bandits of the time. Everyone was scared of him. So when he received the letter, he says that I killed the companion of the Rasul who brought me the letter, and I killed the entire delegation. Can we think of a person who was more wretched? Can we think of a person who was gone? Can we think of a person who we may know who was further from the truth than this man? He says, I took the life of the entire delegation and life continued. After taking the life of that delegation, I set out, and my intention was to assassinate Muhammad bin Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The story is so powerful, I don't want you to hear it from my words. I'm going to read some of these lines that this scholar has written in narrating the story of Thumama bin Uthal radiallahu an, and in allowing us to understand the importance of the masjid in the life of a Muslim. For you and I to understand that the masjid is the focal point. Everything revolves around the masjid. No matter if a youngster is on drugs or not, no matter if a youngster is consuming alcohol or not, we need to encourage them to frequent the masjid. We need to take them by the arm. Someone asked Muhammad Ghazali rahmatullahi alayh, not Imam Ghazali, another scholar from Egypt, what's the hukum of someone who doesn't pray? What's the hukum of someone who doesn't, tariku salah, ma huwa hukmuhu? He said the hukum of someone that doesn't pray is that you take them by the hand and you walk them to the house of Allah. You and I are quick to pass verdicts. That person doesn't pray. That person doesn't do this. That person doesn't do that. The story of Thumama bin Uthal radiallahu anh teaches us that there's hope for everyone. That we don't ever cancel anybody. We don't ever write off anybody. Every single person can come into the masjid and become the Habib of Allah. Every person can come into the masjid and become the beloved of Allah. So what does he say? He says, I wanted to murder and assassinate the Rasul. One day I intended for Umrah. In the days of Jahiliyyah, they also used to perform a pilgrimage. He says, as I was going towards Makkatul Mukarramah, the people that I was with, we were intercepted by a group from the companions of the Rasul ﷺ, and these people took us hostage. This group of the companions, they took the entirety of us hostage. Some lost their lives, and they took us to the masjid of Rasulullah ﷺ, and they tied me to one of the pillars in the masjid of the Rasul ﷺ. He says, I was tied by the masjid of the Rasul ﷺ, and as the Rasul came to enter the masjid that day, وَهَمَّ بِالدُّخُولِ فِيهِ, and the Rasul intends to enter, رَأَى ثُمَامَةَ مَرْبُوطًا فِي السَّارِيَةِ. The Rasul ﷺ sees a man, and he sees this person has been tied up. So he asked the companions around him, أَتَدْرُونَ مَنْ أَخَذْتُمْ? Oh my companions, you were sent out to control the areas around the city of Medina. Do you know who's in your captivity? أَتَدْرُونَ مَنْ أَخَذْتُمْ? Do you know who you have taken captive? Sahaba say, La ya Rasulullah, ya Rasulullah, we don't know who we're holding. Who's this fugitive that we've been able to capture? And then the Rasul says, هَذَا ثُمَامَةْ بِنْ أُثَالَ الْحَنَفِي. That this is Thumam bin Uthal radiallahu anhu, comes from the tribe of Banu Hanifa. What a powerful man he was. He was known as the Malik of Yamama, the king of Yamama. Everyone was scared of him. And then the Rasul comes and he tells the Sahaba around him, اجمعوا ما عندكم من طعام وابعثوا به إلى ثمامة بن أثال. When we say that the Rasul was a mercy for the worlds, this is what we mean. The enemy of the Rasul who wanted to assassinate him at a certain point in his life is held captive. Before the Rasul even speaks to him, what does he say? He goes to the companions and he says, gather some food and go and feed Thumama some food. He must be hungry. Go and feed him something. He must be hungry. Then the Rasul ثُمَّ أَمَرَ بِنَاقَتِهِ أَن تُحْلَبَ لَهُ فِي الْغُدُوِّ وَالرَّوَاحِ. And then the Rasul commanded that every morning and every evening one of the animals should be milked. And every morning and every evening Thumama radiallahu anhu should be given milk to drink and consume because he's probably thirsty. Look at the courtesy that the Rasul is extending towards an enemy of his. By the qasam of Allah, we don't even extend that courtesy to people who share the kalima with us. We don't extend that courtesy to people who share our names and our faith and our tradition. And then the Rasul says, take care of him. Be kind. What was the lesson the Rasul was teaching us? That you don't treat your enemy the way they treat you. Don't be that person. The Rasul tells his companion once, don't be imma'a. Sahaba say, Ya Rasulullah, what's an imma'a? An imma'a is a person, if they're good to you, you're good to them. If they're evil to you, you're evil to them. That's not the sifat and the akhlaq of the ummati of the Rasul So Rasulullah after ensuring he's taken care of, and the Rasul done all of this before even speaking to the man. Then the Rasul comes to Thumama and he says, Ma indaka ya Thumama. Oh Thumama, what's wrong? Oh Thumama, what's happened? Oh Thumama, what are you doing? Oh Thumama, what do you have? And Thumama, at that time a disbeliever, he responds to the Rasul Oh Muhammad, you caught a good one. Oh Muhammad, you're lucky in taqtul dha damin. He's coming from a place of arrogance. Oh Muhammad, if you take my life, then understand my blood is expensive. My people will seek retribution. In taqtul dha damin. If you take my life, you're taking the life of an honorable person. He's speaking arrogantly to the Rasul. In tun'im ala shakirin. If you're going to be kind to me, then I'll be grateful to you, O Muhammad. And O Muhammad, if you want wealth, I'll make you the wealthiest of people. The Rasul hears the response of this man and he goes into the masjid. And the day passes. Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. The next day comes, Rasulullah ﷺ ensures that he's taken care of, and he goes to him, Ma indak ya Thumama, oh Thumama, what's wrong? Thumama, what do you have to say? Thumama, what do you have to give? Again, if you kill me in my blood, people will take retribution. I'm a powerful man. In tun'im ala shakirin, if you're kind and you're grateful, I'll be grateful. And if you want wealth, oh Muhammad, I will make you the wealthiest of people. The Rasul ﷺ goes into the masjid. Asr, Maghrib, Isha, the day passes, the third day the Rasul comes again. In these 3 days, what's happening? That's the powerful effect of staying in the environment of the house of Allah. في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال رجال. Every one of us is a male. How many of us are men? Every one of us seated here are male. How many of us are men? Because Sahaba were not only male, they were men. Today many people are males, but they're not men. Where are men created? Allah says men are created in the house of Allah. What's the characteristic of a true man? رِجَالٌ لَا تُلْهِيهِمْ تِجَارَةٌ وَلَا بَيْعٌ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَإِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ وَإِيتَاءِ الزَّكَاةِ. A true man is a person, no business, no amount of money, no amount of wealth, no business deal or transaction can distract them from the house of Allah, can distract them from fulfilling their salah, can distract them from fulfilling the obligation of zakat. يَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا تَتَقَلَّبُ فِيهِ الْقُلُوبُ وَالْأَبْصَارِ. A true man is a person who's fearful of the day of Qiyamah, the day that they will die and be lowered into the ground. Thumama radiallahu anh spends 3 days in the masjid. Sahaba say, we were confused. The Rasul hasn't done anything. This is a person who was powerful. This is the person who everyone was scared of. After 3 days, the Rasul calls the Sahaba and he tells them, أطلقوا Thumama. Free Thumama, let Thumama go. Sahaba say, we were confused. Ya Rasulullah, this is your enemy. First you extended such courtesies to him. Thereafter you asked him a few questions and you left him to be for the duration of the entire day. Ya Rasulullah, what's happening? Sahaba say, we went and we freed Thumama radiallahu an. And as we freed him, Thumama radiallahu an, he left the masjid. And as he left the masjid, and he went to the outskirts of, by Jannatul Baqi, by the outskirts of the city of Medina, he says, I went there and I done wudu. I took a bath and I took a beautiful purification. And then he says, ثُمَّ عَادَ. Then I came back to the house of Allah. This man who was just let free, he goes to the outskirts, he takes a bath, he takes a ghusl, and he comes back, he enters the door, and he says, أَشْهَدُ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. He accepted the deen of Islam. Sahaba radiallahu anhum say that the Rasul looks towards him. The Rasul focuses his attention to him. What does Thumama say next? Listen to the words of the man himself. He says, Ya Muhammad, O Muhammad, Wallahi, by the qasam of Allah, ما كان على ظهر الأرض وجه أبغض إلي من وجهك. There was no face that I despised on the surface of the earth more than your face, O Muhammad. وَقَدْ أَصْبَحَ وَجْهُكَ أَحَبَّ الْوُجُوهِ كُلِّهَا إِلَيَّ. But now by the qasam of Allah, O Muhammad, there's no face on the surface of the earth that's more beloved to me than your face, O Muhammad. Then he says, O Muhammad, Wallahi ma kana deenun abghada ilayya min deenik. There was no tradition, no faith, no way of life on the surface of the earth that I hated, that I despised more than Islam and your faith. فَأَصْبَحَ دِينُكَ أَحَبَّ الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ إِلَيَّ. But O Muhammad, by the qasam of Allah, your deen, your path, your tradition, your way of life has now become the most beloved tradition and way of life and religion to me. O Muhammad, Wallahi ma kana baladun abghada ilayya min baladik. There was no location, no piece of land, no city, no town, no village that I hated more than your city and your area and your location. But by the qasam of Allah, فَأَصْبَحَ بَلَدُكَ أَحَبَّ الْبِلَادِ كُلِّهَا إِلَيَّ. But by the qasam of Allah, O Muhammad, now your location, your land, close proximity to you, where you walk, that's where I want to walk. And that's the most beloved location to me in the entire earth and in the entire world, Ya Rasulullah. What a change in the man. And then he says that, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when your people held me captive, I was actually on my way to do Umrah. So what should I do? So the Rasul ﷺ tells him that, oh Muhammad, the Rasul tells him, oh Thumama, you complete your Umrah. But then Thumama says, but the reality is, the way Big Papa said to that Jama'ah, I've done too much. I've been negligent for too long. The amount of blood I have on my hands, the amount of drugs and the amount of addicts that I am responsible for, there's no way my Allah will forgive me. Thumama radiallahu anhu says that, oh Muhammad, the reality is, لَقَدْ كُنْتُ أَصَبْتُ فِي أَصْحَابِكَ دَمًا فَمَا الَّذِي تُوجِبُهُ عَلَيَّ. Oh Muhammad, your companions, I kill them. The blood of your brothers is on my hands. What do I need to do to expiate myself for that sin? What did the Rasul ﷺ tell him? Oh Thumama, whatever's the past, let bygones be bygones. Islam eradicates and erases whatever happened before. He says, I went to Umrah. The first person to go by the Kaaba, the Quraysh are all present. Imagine that this is what a man is. This is who a true man is. He says, I went by the Kaaba, the Quraysh were around the Kaaba, and I said the talbiyah. لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك. And the Quraysh also had a chant and a slogan that they used to say. And he says, when they realized, after I mentioned it multiple times, that it's different to what we used to say in the days of ignorance, they asked me a question. When they heard the talbiyah, the first Muslim on the surface of the earth to enter Mecca saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik, they asked him a question. And they asked him, have you left the deen and the tradition and the religion of your forefathers? Have you turned renegade? Have you left the idols, the worship of the idols that we engage in? And then what was the response of Thumama? He says that the reality is, ما صبوت ولكني اتبعت خير دين اتبعت دين محمد. I haven't left your tradition. I've just started to follow the most pure way of life. Islam isn't a religion. Islam is a way of life. Islam isn't restricted to the masjid. Unfortunately, what's the reality? When we exit the masjid, we take the topi off, we fold it nicely and we put it in our back pocket. And we fail to realize with that, the entirety of our faith also goes into that back pocket. When we exit those doors, we don't speak like a Muslim. We don't deal with people like a Muslim. We don't control our gaze as a Muslim is supposed to. With the removal of that kufi, which for us is something small, we're removing our entire faith and we don't carry ourselves the way we were supposed to. So he says, I done tawaf around the Kaaba, and as I'm saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik, and I declare my Islam, some of the young ones, some of the youth from Quraysh, one of them pulls out an arrow, some of them are about to pounce on me and attack me. And when the Quraysh see that these young people are acting on impulse, they don't know who the man is. They don't know who they're dealing with. Immediately they stop the youth and they ask them, do you know who this is? How dare you even consider releasing an arrow in his direction? This is Thumama. Thumama has control of the entirety of that region. If he wanted to do something, we'd be in trouble. Let's speak to him. Let's converse with him. Let's get in dialogue. So they say that we came to him and we started to speak to him. And what did Thumama say? Because of the fact that you guys troubled me, because of the fact that some of the youth, according to some riwayat, they also physically hit him. He says, as a consequence of this, I will put you under a boycott. I will not allow any food, vegetation, fruits, whatever it may be, from our lands, our areas, our region, to enter Makkatul Mukarramah. Nothing grows in Makkah. Everything is imported. What happened? As a consequence of him placing this boycott is a word, some people take it sensitive. In the past 2 years, people ask the question when we've been witnessing the genocide that, are we supposed to boycott? Is there any benefit in boycotting? Is there any basis in Sharia to boycott? Is it permissible? What did Thumama radiallahu anh? He says, I placed such a boycott on them. They had run out of their treasure. They ran out of whatever they had, to a degree where they started to take blood and wrap it in something and eat it. They were on the verge of starvation. Those very same people who a few years prior placed the Rasul and the group of Sahaba in the valley for 3 years. They boycotted the Rasul and his companions for 3 years. No one done trade with them. No one done business with the Rasul. Fatima radiallahu anha comes to her father. Imagine the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imagine his sentiment. My companions, my brothers, my children are tugging at my legs and saying, oh our father, we're hungry. Oh our father, what do we eat? Al-atsh, ya Rasulullah. Al-ju' ya Rasulullah. Ya Rasulullah, we're hungry. They're taking leaves. They're frying whatever they have. They're consuming whatever they can. And a few years later, now the Quraysh are in that same predicament. Abu Sufyan comes to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, "Oh Muhammad, I ask you because we're family. I ask you through Silatul Rahim, through maintaining family ties, speak to Thumama. Oh Muhammad, speak to Thumama and tell him do something." The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to still impact the hearts of these people. And he wanted to ensure that maybe their hearts may be softened. He's saying to the Rasul, "Oh Muhammad, you've killed our men and our children are going to die from starvation. Oh Muhammad, what do we do? Oh Muhammad, please say something to Thumama." The Rasul writes a letter to Thumama bin Uthal radiallahu ta'ala an, and he commands him to open the doors so that the caravans can begin their journeys freely and they can start doing business and trade. The Rasul taught you and I a powerful lesson. The Rasul taught you and I boycotts definitely make a difference. If they never made a difference, why are some companies firing their CEOs? It allows you to have a healthier conscience. How can we actively be supporting people who are responsible for the blood of our young ones? How can we actively support people who are responsible for the blood of our mothers and sisters? So then the Rasul writes a letter to Thumama radiallahu an, and he commands Thumama radiallahu an that, "Oh Thumama, these people are complaining. They've got nothing. They've got no food. They've got nothing. That's why we don't deal with evil with evil. Someone starves us, we don't starve them. Someone harms us, we don't harm them. Someone extends evil to us, we don't extend." The Muslim is a person who has haiba. The Muslim is a person who shows beautiful akhlaq. There's a place and space for everything. Then Thumama radiallahu an, he says that I removed the boycott that I had placed over them. I allowed the food to now go back and forth. And I told them it's only because of my loyalty to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If it was anyone other than Muhammad, by the qasam of Allah, I would have maintained this blockade. I wouldn't have allowed any food to enter. I wouldn't have allowed anything to enter. Thumama radiallahu an, from the area where he resided, that's where, towards the end of the life of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Musaylama, who claimed prophethood, came from those areas. But Thumama radiallahu an, over and over and over again, he showed his loyalty to the deen of Islam. A man who his journey begins with being a potential assassin of the Rasul. I want you to go home today and understand one lesson: the power of da'wah, the power of a good word, the power of a word of encouragement. You see someone struggling with their faith, don't bring them down, lift them. You see someone struggling with their religion and they're having an identity crisis, don't question them, empower them. You don't know the effect. If that jama'ah, when they were in Gambia, they call it the smiling seat country of Africa, whatever it is, if they heard Big Papa and they thought, you know what, we're never going to bother go see him. A da'i is a person who seeks ways to bring people close to the deen of Allah. And they went to Big Papa, he took off his chains, he took out his guns, he placed it in front of him, and he made that very same wudu that Thumama radiallahu anhu made, and that ghusl that he took as he came outside the proximity of the masjid of the Rasul. Thumama radiallahu anhu told you and I, we never give up on people. Till they're not in the throes of death, we believe that we can help ourselves by helping them. When did we become an ummah of cancelling people? That person's like this, he prays like that, she does this, she doesn't wear the hijab, she's not a mutanaqqiba, she talks to... When were we an ummah that brought people down when they were struggling? The Rasul taught you and I that you have a responsibility. You are a da'i ilallah. You are a person who, when people see you, what did Thumama radiallahu anhu do? The Rasul never invited him to Islam. He stood in the masjid, he stayed in the masjid, and he saw the Muslims for 72 hours. And his interaction with the believer for 72 hours compelled him to go to the outskirts of Medina and accept the deen of Islam. How many people have we interacted with for years? Forget 72 hours, 72 days. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, have they ever considered becoming Muslim? One person, and I've said it and I'll say over and over again. What impact are you having on those around you? On Friday night we had a youth program. And I asked one of the brothers who was there, he was a revert brother. He accepted Islam in this masjid in August. He hadn't even been Muslim for 2 months. I asked him, what do you want to do in life? What's your objective and what do you want to achieve? Allah's my witness, Shadman was there. A young 20-year-old brother who accepted Islam less than 2 months ago says, I want to be an impactful person on the lives of others. I want to be a positive force in the world. I've acquired the beauty of this deen. I want to show other people what it means to enjoy the happiness of being a Muslim. He told me, he said, Wallahi, I said, what's the biggest change? He said, to be honest, bro, I just feel happy. When I put this forehead on the ground and I forget everything, and I feel Islam made me happy. And today, by the qasam of Allah, as sad as it is, Islam is the reason for our sorrow and grief. Islam's too strict. Islam's too backwards. The sunnah is outdated. By the qasam of Allah, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. When the deen of Allah is in your life in totality to the best of your ability, that's when true happiness will come. How is it possible that Big Papa, who had everything, he was a drug dealer, he had the house, he had everything. But he says that 3 o'clock in the morning, the entire group of brothers were woken up by this man crying. There has to have been something in that tahajjud. There has to have been something in that 2 raka'at in front of Allah. There has to have been something in the sweetness of that prostration, that he wasn't getting in drugs, that he wasn't getting in dealing drugs, that he wasn't getting in women or whatever it may have been. And that was the beginning of his journey, and he re-memorized the 20 juz, and then he became a hafiz of Quran, and he died between Asr and Maghrib on a Friday. What an enviable death Allah blessed him with. Every one of us needs to exit these doors whenever we come to this masjid. Say, how will I have a positive impact on those around me today? Your akhlaq should be the means of people considering Islam. Islam never spread by the sword. Islam spread with love and compassion, with affection, with husnul khuluq, with good code of conduct, where people saw how the Rasul treated them. They saw and they felt his warmth. They felt his care. Imagine as a prisoner, if the first thing the person who's holding you captive does, even before they speak to you, is ensure that your food and your drink is taken care of. What an impact it would have. But today we can't extend those courtesies to our own Muslims. Today we're broken. हाथ बांधने और हाथ छोड़ने पे इतनी इख्तिलाफ मत करो. दुश्मन हाथ काटने की साजिश में लगे हैं. We're so focused on these smaller abhath, fiqhi differences. Are you supposed to tie your hands here? Is it supposed to be below the navel? Are you supposed to drop them to your sides? Whilst the enemy is strategizing how to cut that very hand of that believer. That's the reality of the ummah today. We've become oblivious of what's happening around us, and we fail to understand the importance of uniting at these moments. The ummah is in a crisis. The world is in a crisis. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. That one knock on that door changed the life of Big Papa. That interaction with the Rasul changed the life of Thumama radiallahu an. What do we need to do to impact those around us? By the qasam of Allah, statistics will tell you the amount of Muslim youth, boys and girls, again I'm repeating, boys and girls, in drugs, addicted. In South Africa there was a rehab. And the rehab was created or built and developed by a Muslim, primarily serving Muslims. That rehab had people, addicts from across the globe who attended that rehab. I had a friend from London whose father sent him to that rehab in South Africa. And the stories you hear of how drugs totally destroyed their lives. We need to be cognizant of the fitan to be able to protect ourselves. If we don't know the fitan that are out there that our young children, our young teenagers are dealing with, how are we going to prep them and prepare them to be able to not fall prey to those very same challenges? Unfortunately today, many parents aren't locked in like that. They got no clue what the kid's doing on the phone. The kid, 10 years old, 5 years old, okay, we're going to give you an iPad, we're going to give you an iPhone, we're going to give you this. They don't know what the kid is perusing on the web. They are totally negligent. Either actively or passively, Allah knows best, but we're living in a bubble sometimes. And that youngster, Allah's my witness. We think sometimes pornography is something that maybe kids, teenagers and above are struggling with. Young children from the age of 7, 8 and 9 are addicted to pornography. It's a reality. We can't put our heads under the carpet and think that there's no problem. But who created that problem? How did that problem come into existence? When we gave our children unrestricted access to the World Wide Web. What happened? They got tangled within that web. That web devoured them. And now a young 9-year-old is addicted to pornography. By the age of 15, probably hours of pornography that they viewed. What effect will that have on the heart of that young, innocent, clean mind? What happens over a period of time? What happens to that innocent child who we gave them to the wolves? We handed them over to these devices. We never wanted to be active parents. Who suffered? Who struggled? Who had to combat those addictions? That very same child who we neglected. Every child of the ummah we need to take as our child. Every child of the community requires the care and concern as we would give to our own biological children. It's a reality. It's a reality. Young students, young boys. I was speaking to a few youngsters a month ago. 11, 12 years old, 10 years old. Addicted to pornography. How long have you been perusing porn? Sheikh, has been about maybe over a year and a half. You're barely 10. You're barely 10 years old. How were you able to do it? Where did you have access? Who gave you these devices? Wallahi, my brothers, we need to wake up. The child is breakfast, there's an iPad. Lunch, there's an iPad. Dinner, there's an iPad. Restaurant, there's an iPad. Bus, car, iPad. What are we doing? Bara maza aaya tha bachcha ko paida karne mein, and now we don't want to do anything about it. We don't want to take responsibility for it. And who suffers? Wallahi, the ummah suffers. The community suffers. The children suffer. We make dua to Allah that He allows us to understand the importance of da'wah. وَهُدُوا إِلَى الطَّيِّبِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ وَهُدُوا إِلَى صِرَاطِ الْحَمِيدِ. Say a good word and it will take someone to the path of Jannah, the path of Islam. We make dua to Allah that He allows us to do tarbiyah of our children as we ought to. He allows us to give them the attention and the care that they require. What did the Western world do? What did the Western world do? A child is growing up, they call it the modern day orphan. The modern day orphan. Mother is alive, father is alive, but both are absent in the lives of their children. Of course, you can't blanket rule, but for the most part, mothers are working, fathers are working, the child is by the nanny or in a daycare. Our teacher used to tell us, you can express milk into the bottle that the nanny will then feed to the child, but you can never express the sentiment, the love, the care, and the concern of the mother into that bottle. You can't. It's impossible. The way a mother will care for her own child, no one will care for her child like that. Of course, everyone's scenario, circumstances are different, and I'm not speaking generally, but that's the lesson. The modern day orphan, who's doing tarbiyah of that child? The television. Who's doing tarbiyah of that child? The iPad. Where are the parents? No, I need some free time. And what's the mother doing? What's the father doing? We're on our phones. It's not like we're busy doing work. It's not like we're engrossed in something important that we're using this as a darura, as a necessity. We are giving our children to these devices to just be able to use the device ourselves. Sometimes I'm guilty for it myself. Sending an important message or responding to someone, it can wait. Whatever it is, it can wait. These years, what did Ali radiallahu anhu say? For the first 7 years, play with your children. Play with them, make them just play. From 7 to 14, teach them. And after 14, befriend them, become their friends, because after that, whatever you've done between 7 to 14 is what's going to count. Whatever tarbiyah you've done, whatever morals, ethics, lessons you've ingrained into your children from the age of 7 to 14. After 14, they got their friends, they got a mind of their own, they got a car of their own by 16, 17, they got their own social circles, they're not going to listen to you anymore. But parents don't even know. Nahi, mera bachcha farishta hai. Kitna farishta hai, hum jante hai na. We know. We speak to them in private. They come to us. When they got a problem, they don't go to the parent. They don't go to the father. And they come to us, and the difficulty for us is they speak to us in confidence. So now we got to tackle the problem, create limitations on their devices, without telling the parent of what the child is engrossed in, because they've trusted us in confidence. What a Wallahi, sometimes I can't sleep at night. How am I supposed to deal with? I can't tell your dad, I can't tell your mom. We need to find a solution. We need to help you. You need help. What do we do? How do we go about it? We make dua to Allah that Allah protect our children. Allah preserve them. Allah allow us to do tarbiyah of them the way we are supposed to. Allah allow us to fulfill the hukuk and the rights that they enjoy over us. We make dua to Allah that any child of the ummah who is drowning in the addiction of drugs, alcohol, womanizing, pornography, whatever it may be, any sort of addiction that's unhealthy for them, that takes them away from Islam, takes them away from their deen, takes them away from the masjid, takes them away from the parents, creates problems in their lives. We make dua to Allah that Allah allow every single one of those children of the ummah to overcome those addictions. Allah help them, Allah empower them, Allah strengthen them, Allah give them the resolve, the motivation, the determination to overcome those difficulties and those challenges that they are combating on a daily basis. We make dua to Allah that He allow our communities to see the likes of Sahaba, our children to love Sahaba, to follow Sahaba, to want to be like the Sahaba, and Allah allow us as parents to love the companions. If you don't mind, I know we're over time. I'm going to read you something, and we'll conclude with this. And this is in London, yeah? What I'm going to read to you is a message written by a scholar from England. England, for you to understand the dynamic of England, or at least London, Leicester, these areas. London is heavily populated by Muslims. The infrastructure of Islam in London is far beyond America in many cities. For example, when I was growing up, the Maktab program, the evening 2-hour program in the masjid, if I was to say 95 to 99% of children under the age of 15 attended those programs, I'm not exaggerating and I'm not lying. The kid who never went to Maktab felt left out. 95 to 99%. But then the weekend school was introduced. What did the weekend school do? In reality, it appeased the parents to make them feel that they have a care and concern for the religion and spirituality of their children, but in reality it's a daycare. We need to do groceries, we need to go for a brunch, we need to go here, well, let's just throw the kids in a weekend. You can't, the kids are in school for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. 40, 50 hours you want to undo by 2 hours on a Sunday? The indoctrination that happens for 40, 50 hours, we want to undo on a Sunday morning when the kid's supposed to be playing. Sunday was supposed to be a time for the kid to relax and play and enjoy themselves. Now we're forcing them into the masajid at these times. We're appeasing ourselves. And then what happened? The maktab numbers dropped. Listen to what this scholar says. And wallah, it's thought-provoking. When I read it, he says, the masjid without our youth. A few mornings ago, after leading the Fajr Salah, I sat quietly in the masjid. Row after row of worshippers, yet not a single youngster between 10 and 16. Not one. At Dhuhr, I prayed at another local masjid. Only the familiar few under 10s brought by their fathers, no new faces. At Asr, yet another local masjid, and again not a single young soul in sight. After Salah, the local Imam delivered a beautiful reminder on attaining khushu' in Salah, filled with practical gems for every young heart. But only one child came, one. This is not an observation, this is a warning. The absence of our youth in the masjid today will be the absence of faith in our community tomorrow. Faith does not pass automatically from one generation to the next. When one generation sometimes prays at the masjid, the next generation sometimes prays at home. When the next generation sometimes prays at home, the next grows up not praying at all. When that happens, the following generation doesn't even know what salah is. That is how faith is lost, quietly, slowly, imperceptibly, until it's gone. The problem doesn't lie in society, in screens, in distractions. The truth is heavier. The problem lies in us. The problem isn't the screen. The screen is a result and consequence of the problem. The problem doesn't lie in society, not in the screen, not in the distraction. The truth is heavier. The problem lies in us, in our priorities, in our inaction, in our failure to nurture the seeds of Iman whilst there is still time. Our masajid should echo with young voices, with laughter, with yearning and learning. As the Ottomans used to say, if you do not hear the voices of children at the back of your masajid, you should fear for the next generation. Yet today they are silent, empty. And if we continue on this path, tomorrow's masajid will be empty too. And with them, our faith. The Iman of our children is not guaranteed. Just because they were born with Iman does not mean they will leave this world with it. It must be nurtured, it must be protected, and it must start today. Our fathers built these masajid with their sweat and their du'as. Will we be the generation that leaves them empty? How much effort, how much money, how much resources? Will we be the generation that leaves them empty? Or will we fill them with our children so that when we leave this world, we leave behind a legacy of faith? We were once the children at the back of the masjid. Our fathers bought us. Our elders welcomed us. Our teachers guided us. Now it's our turn. If we break this cycle, faith will break with it. If we continue it, Islam will live in every home, every heart, every generation to come. So the next time we see empty rows where our children should be, we must not ask, where are they? We must ask, where are we? Powerful words. The next time it's empty, we don't ask, where are they? We ask, where are we? For their absence is a reflection of our choices. If we return to the masjid, they will follow. If we leave, they will be lost. My beloved brothers and sisters, do not let this be a warning that passes your ears and fades. Take it to your heart. Take it to your homes. Take it to your children. And do not let the iman of our youth slip through our fingers. The silence of today's masajid must not become the silence of tomorrow's faith from your local imam. That's London. This is speaking about London, where there's such a strong Muslim community and identity and presence. What about here? Where you walk in the mall, you're the few in the hijab. You're the few that looks like a Muslim. We make dua to Allah that He protect us and preserve us. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.